I hope you're ready for some ill logic. Last time we went over a Week 9 match with Matt and the Cincinnati Incineroar. Please go check that video out first if you've not done so already, as we went over the team breakdown, preview, battle, and post-game, in which, spoiler alert, we reflected on our second straight 6-0 win to guarantee a bye in the first round of the playoffs as the number 2 seed. This time we take a look at the aftermath of the quarterfinals and see that we're playing a surprising opponent this time. In John, coach of the Close Combat Club. Timestamps for the Teambuilder battle and post-game thoughts will be in the description. The number 5 and number 6 seeded teams won their first round matches against the numbers 4 and 3 seeds respectively, with Chad and Seattle Steamrollers defeating Matt's Cincinnati Incineroar to go to play Steve Chuck's Waterdeep Wobbuffets, and John's Close Combat Club taking down Zach's Summit County Psyducks off the back of a Calm Mind Keldeo win. As payment for ruining our chances to get revenge on Zach for our Week 7 loss, we will have to do our best to combat John's team, which has been upgraded since we last fought in Week 4. If you'll recall, last time John brought a team with Amoonguss, Slowbro, Umbreon, Golurk, Keldeo, and Jolteon, a sort of mixed balance team that played to his strength of pivoting around until he could find an opening with the big boys of Golurk and Keldeo. However, my team of Specs Dragapult, Itemless Hazards Mew, Substabs Magnezone, Safety Goggles Vikavolt, Fizdef Mantine, and Silvally Dragon came through with a convincing 5-0 win, which could have easily been 6-0 had I switched out my Mew appropriately into Mantine. In that match, Magnezone went absolutely in. Dragapult survived a crit Sucker Punch from Umbreon to nab 3 KOs in the match with almost no HP left. Mew set up its layers reliably and got the nice surprise Poltergeist immunity from the tricky no-item strat. Vikavolt provided a reliable Amoonguss answer with Goggles, and Mantine sat in front of Keldeo all day long. I think it was a good matchup to begin with, but we've seen what John can do with 3 wins in a row to make it here, including a beatdown of a team we lost to earlier this season. John did an amazing job with his Keldeo, setting up Calm Minds in front of a team that had a hard time outspeeding Keldeo in the first place, let alone hit it with physical attacks, so we need to be aware of what John could bring at this time. It's playoffs time, baby. We're 2 wins away from claiming yet another Wooper Club League title. Everyone's rooting against us because they're tired of seeing us winning, but we have to show them what's what. And that's going to involve taking a look at how his team composition has changed since the last time we faced off. And I see a couple of improvements with the changes, as well as a couple of negative aspects. Starting at the top of the speed tiers, it is of course Jolteon, Keldeo, the newly added Haxorus, Torracat, Klefki, Umbreon, Golurk, Amoonguss, Slowbro, another new add in G-Max, Snorlax, and Escavalier. The positives definitely start with the sheer power of Haxorus. Adding a Dragon type with pretty good speed and the ability to set up in multiple ways is crazy strong. The other addition in Snorlax does something quite similar, providing that oomph in a different way by using bulk and versatility combined with G-Max. The coverage as well as the ability to set up Curse or heal with Rest are incredibly valuable for his team, which again relies on ducking in and out of those slower pivot mons into these heavy hitters. Frankly, the team composition I'm most scared of this week doubles down on that physical offense by bringing those two as well as Golurk to blitz through me, which single-handedly influenced a last-minute team change as well that we'll get to in just a bit. The negatives of the changes, though, lie in the grounded nature of the team. Sigilyph and G-Max Charizard are gone, replaced by 2 ground neutralities, most importantly without access to Defog. Yeah, the only hazard removal on his entire team now rests with Klefki, who also wants to run screens, and also wants to run its own hazards, and also wants to run some coverage, and it's just a bangle of keys! That's too much pressure for it. And the final thing I'd like to point out is the speed issue, which seems okay at the top, but all the middling speed tiers just fall out from underneath. With Umbreon being the middle speed tier, something you are never going to invest speed in, and 4 mons with base 30 speed or slower. That should help with speed on my side for sure, but I do still have to be wary of Scarfs from things like Keldeo or Haxorus, or maybe even the Golurk if he wants to catch me by surprise. If I'm him, I'm definitely looking for something cool like that to catch me off guard. Going through his team and the likelihood of bringing those threats, we see the biggest problem, and that is Klefki, unless at the very bottom, it does not have a good matchup against me. The main issue by far is Magnezone, who can trap and kill it with Magnet Pull. The biggest issue here is that combined with how good it could be against me otherwise, it can wall Dragapult, it can status my team, it can set up very effective hazards. But if Zone is there, it's completely useless, and in fact, a liability. Does it come? I could see it, but it'd have to be Shed Shell, and that could make for a very, very awkward match for him. Torracat is next, who I think could be run with, say, a Scarf, but it's tough to use as a tier 5. It just doesn't do enough in any single aspect, doesn't beat anything, it's rough. From here, the last night, it gets a little tough. Escavalier is actually pretty good in this match or otherwise, but I noticed he's been very reluctant to bring it and may need to rely on support from something like Screen's Klefki or maybe even a Trick Room on Slowbro to really get going. Despite my lack of fire moves and coverage, it gets worn down somewhat easily and forces Umbreon to pass to it over anything else, which could make it very predictable as well. So the Trick Room option I think would be a lot better suited for. I could run a Choice Band, Sword Stance, something like that. That is, if Slowbro didn't also struggle so mightily against me. I have so many options to hit this thing super effectively, especially considering the team I brought last time, so I kind of find it unlikely to come at all this time around, however nice it might be to have the other part of the Regenerator core. Finally, I waffled a lot on this pick. In the end, I decided that, yes, despite its recent performance, John's path to victory will not be including a Keldeo. Yeah, his Tier 1 Mon that won last week struggles almost entirely again thanks to Mantine, who completely invalidates it. Of course, Toxic is about the only way to deal with Mantine, which is a bit concerning, honestly, but if it isn't Scarf, then Dragapult becomes an amazing answer, too. I have a couple other possibilities to block it if it does come, and with all this pressure against it, I think I'll make the call that he leaves behind this time. I know it just won him his quarterfinals match, but as for the 6 I expect. I already mentioned the all-out assault that I'm most afraid of, so let's start with Golurk, who has a hard time getting in, but once it does, whoo, boy, does it swing. It's something that may require good protection, but need to remind you how tough it's been to face Tier 4 ground types. That Poltergeist trick with the itemless Mew was cute the first time, but can I really afford to go itemless again? My switches are really few and far between, so we'll see how I try and handle this thing. Gmax Snorlax is the next part of the puzzle, providing more physical offense in a variety of ways thanks to its dumb good coverage. It's bulky, it's strong, and even try and set up in front of things like a special attacking Dragapult or maybe a Mew lacking setup or taunt. Big threat, for sure. As is Jolteon, who provides another electric immunity alongside Golurk and was the best answer he had to my previous Magnezone set. It's a strong special attacker, too, that can complement the physical offense, and maybe even cheekily set up a Wish or something like that in the right circumstances. The big 3 are the ones I definitely expect, starting with Amoonguss. The regenerating Mushroom is tougher for me to break through than the regenerating Slowbro, as Grass Poison means I can't hit it with my plethora of coverage, nor poison it with Toxic. It additionally does more back to me between its own statuses that can't miss, primarily Spore, not to mention Toxic that cannot miss, as well as having options outside of Stab, like Stomping Tantrum or Foul Play, to make my life uncomfortable. Umbreon is back again as a Dark type to handle my big bad Tier 1s, last time packing Sucker Punch and lots of bulk to go with Wish and Protect. It sits in front of Mew and Dragapult all day long, and I don't exactly have a fighting type to break through it. The final piece is, of course, Haxorus, who can break my team easily with a single Dragon Dance, or a single Choice Band or Choice Scarf. The speed would help to outspeed even Dragapult at +1, and 2 KO my whole team between Dragon, Ground, and Poison coverage. Yeah, it's that scary. I don't have all that many proactive responses to it. How do I maneuver around this one? Volby is not going to be a part of that, though it does actually have a decent time against a few of his threats. Foul Play for Haxorus, for example, or Toxicking the Umbreon. But the issue is with how much I take in return from Haxorus, and Umbreon hitting me back with a poison and heal-belling itself back up. Basically, what Volby can do isn't enough. Sneasel is next, as despite Ice Shard being another possible Haxorus check, it isn't going to be coming in on it unless something is already fainted. That's really not good enough, especially when it's outsped by Scarf and Jolteon fails to do, and it fails to do enough damage to things like Keldeo or Umbreon. It's not enough. Colossal doesn't make it either, as it doesn't have any stall-breaking capabilities against this team. Getting bopped by the water and ground coverage is abundant on his team, and that doesn't help. I have a better Spike Setter for sure. Silvally Dragon was cool last time, but I couldn't find a good enough type this time compared to what I need to be investing in to win. Silvally needs setup to break, speed for Haxorus, and it doesn't get that many free turns. And a single typing isn't going to be enough this time, so to the bench with you. Finally, it is painful for me to say this, but I made a last-minute decision to drop the Mantine onto the bench in exchange for Tangela. That is the natural conclusion of my reasoning above, where I decided that a full-on physical offensive onslaught was the way to go for my opponent, and that would play into leaving Keldeo behind. If he doesn't bring the Keldeo, Mantine just doesn't do much. It can survive a +1 Haxorus Outrage at full Fizz Duff, but Ice Beam only does half back. It can survive Snorlax's attacks, but with rest I just can't break through. Even worse if he's got the immunity ability. I cannot switch into Golurk. Stone Edge and Poltergeist 2 KO easily. I can't afford to put speed into Mantine. Jolteon's a joke too, and Amoonguss sits in front of me all day long. So if he doesn't bring Keldeo, it's risky, but no Mantine. I'll have to try and win my first game without bringing Mantine. But of course, that means you know who did make it, right? 4 team members are the same as the last time we faced, but we've got a twist on all 4 of them. We've got at least one returning move on each, so how do we change things up? I think I'm most proud of this Magnezone set, the same as last time, but exchanging both stab moves with Iron Defense and Body Press. Yeah, the mono attacking zone with Body Press and the ability to set up. The main idea behind this set is that his main answers to Sub-Zone last time were Jolteon and Umbreon. You know what they're not going to like? Me setting up to +2 and annihilating them. Jolteon gets O-Code at +2, and it's a super effective hit on Umbreon and Snorlax, all 3 of which I'm expecting to come. That aside, Amoonguss is PP stalled, as even stopping Tantrum isn't breaking the sub after an Iron Defense. Plus, if physical offense is what I'm worried about, why not go max physical defense and raise it even further? Not bad. I'm mostly looking at the Umbreon to set up on, and of course, with Magnapole, I need to ensure that Klefki is a liability too. You all remember the old Drag-Mag combination? Klefki being the only fairy as well as one of his steel types makes it easy for Dragapult to go in, but this time it's with a sub-Dragon Dance set, relying on Dragon Darts for damage and finishing with U-Turn for pivoting potential. Now in physical this time instead of special is another way to take advantage of some of the passive options like Umbreon and Amoonguss, as well as an easy way to get off good damage if needed with D-Darts, or just pivot out. D-Darts may be less damage than Draco, but it hits the special walls like Snorlax and Umbreon much more easily. It can be boosted with Dragon Dance, and it doesn't leave me vulnerable like a Draco Meteor or a Choice item would leave me. Pretty cool set. I think it should put in a lot of work if Zone goes down, or I can get it in earlier against a Klefki-less team. That, and we've been shuffling around items here, and I have another Specs user. This time it's going to be on Vikavolt, who last time did have the goggles. I did consider an itemless build for Golurk here as well. Also, an agility set could have been cool, because that would outspeed his whole team at +2. But when I saw the damage output from Specs above, I knew this was the answer for sure. 100% to Jolteon, 84 to 98 to Haxorus, a guaranteed 2-hit KO on Fizdef Amoonguss, which I do expect, a 2-hit KO on Spidef Umbreon, even 2-hit KO on Golurk, which resists it. That's the good stuff, that's for sure. That's too much damage. The magic of base 145 special attack. And the best part is I don't even need speed for things like Amoonguss, Slowbro, Snorlax, or Scavalier on such a strong mon. HP lets me survive neutral hits from Golurk or Haxorus, but at +1 they do still bring me down. Still, Specs is the item, as opposed to the goggles from last time, of course. The item shuffling does continue with the last of the returning members, Mew, who wields the spectacles to help combat not just sleep on itself, but all statuses on the team. Yeah, Heal Bell is my answer to make this a complete Amoonguss check, as his other option of toxicking me is completely neutered, especially with a Roost to keep me healthy. It also means I can play aggressively around the Amoonguss, predicting him not to click Spore to try and bait out my Gogglesmon, which I can just heal off later anyways with Heal Bell. That is, maybe I can go into something like the Vikavolt if he tries to sleep that. Then I can go into Mew for Heal Bell. Otherwise, maybe he won't be clicking Spore at all, thinking that Vikavolt was the answer all along when it was not. So, I don't think I've brought this particular move yet on Mew this whole season, Heal Bell. I hope you can see where it shines in this matchup in particular. Spikes is definitely too valuable again. His whole team's grounded. His whole team takes the residual. I made Psychic my last slot option for the attacking move. Foul Play is what I brought last time. Those are definitely a possibility again. Hits Golurk, obviously. It hits Haxorus very well as well. But then Ice Beam seemed just better than that. It hit them plus the Amoonguss. Psychic is just better though. The stab option hits Keldeo while solidifying it as the de facto Amoonguss check, which I actually felt like I was skimping on just a little bit. Pretty simple, outspeeding the Haxorus just in case, and otherwise trying to set with spikes in front of things like the Amoonguss or Slowbro. With the returning force solidified and updated, what of the 2 new ones replacing Silvally this time is the G-Max Anaconda, a true showing of my shift in trust and preference for sure. Silvally's fallen out of favor for the need to set up without having recovery options, whereas Sandaconda has physical bulk like crazy and the ability to set up immediately with a G-Max. Also why you haven't been seeing Coil on the G-Max Sandaconda sets either. I think I've kind of learned what this mon needs to do, whereas others I'm still mystified by. So, the whole team grounded. Earthquake Sandblast is such an easy click, just about always. Followed by Outrage Max Wormwind, which OHKOs Haxorus after spikes, and Skitter Smack too. And that at least smacks the Slowbro a little bit if needed, as well as maybe the Umbreon, but I think Slowbro is the main thing that would be able to hang on with the Earthquake and Outrage. Rest of the last move, of course, not that I've clicked it yet, but still. This is my primary Haxorus check. Number 1, Haxorus check, especially if it tries to set up. This tank's hits the best. Maxing up on an Outrage may have to be my way out of it. If Haxorus goes down, this becomes the Golurk check, I suppose, and if that goes down, then it's the Snorlax check. Of course, going the other way, my other physical check is what I replaced Mantine with at the last moment, and that is God Tangela. Haxorus can still 2 KOs with the right moves and set up, so Tangela's main role will be the Snorlax and Golurk. Healing up with their generator, of course, and hopefully healing up on Snorlax with Leech Seed to help even further. This might be a weird moveset, considering it doesn't have any statuses, but I'm a little bit worried about things like Lumberry Haxorus, Rest Snorlax, and Substitute on Keldeo or Haxorus. Knockoff is standard to at least do something to Amoonguss, but otherwise Giga Drain and Sludge Bomb are conservative choices to break the subs of Keldeo and Haxorus respectively consistently that Leaf Storm does not provide otherwise. That aside, just chipping them with Tangela is all that's really required anyways, especially when the 2 main threats it's checking, Snorlax and Golurk, are handled pretty freely anyways by me. Additionally, if it isn't a boosting Keldeo, Tangela can check that too, with the water moves resisted and fighting coverage basically resisted by it hitting on the physical side. It's a bit of a stretch, maybe, but I'm more confident in the physical offense trio coming compared to that Keldeo. Of course, that may depend on if he's looking at our previous match, where the Keldeo didn't do much, as opposed to recent matches where I'm much better prepared for the physical threats, with Sandaconda being favored. That's the team. How about the battle? Some good and some bad. The bad is definitely seeing Keldeo. I really didn't think it'd come after seeing it be manhandled by Mantine last time, but I can't fault him for leaning on his best mon. That will make things trickier, but no Golurk helps out a decent bit too. That combined with the lack of Jolteon means no electric immunities. That's pretty nice to see, or maybe would be if Zone still had electric coverage, but my set should put in work regardless. Especially when I spot that Klefki. That's very surprising to see and means it should probably be carrying Shed Shell, but we'll have to see when we get there. That and Umbreon provide the best opportunities for Zone to set up, so maybe we can bait them out with a lead Dragapult, yeah. His lead is going to be Klefki, which could potentially set spikes immediately, which would really suck because I'm not carrying Defog this week. However, I can definitely take advantage of it with Zone. The other bad possibility, the other bad thing that could happen this first turn is a status move onto something like Dragapult. But with Muse Heal Bell, I'm not really worried about it. So just in case he's trying to bait me into going to Magnezone, I can still U-turn pretty safely, knowing that I can heal it off later. U-turn it is into a Light Screen. That's not going to matter. Probably only used for say, a Fire Blast if I were to go for something like that, or a special Magnezone, which I am actually not. So now that it's apparently trapped, I can sub up pretty easily, but he is going to be able to switch out into Snorlax. Very interesting, for sure. I could start to Iron Defense up here, but I'm kind of expecting maybe an Earthquake or a Max Quake or something like that to come here. To that end, why don't I pick up the pressure a little bit and just go for a raw Body Press? If he thinks this is an answer to me, he is sorely mistaken. Body Press does half, oh my goodness, and he's going to curse up once. So not only is he down to half, but my sub is still up. I promise my setup is going to be more effective than his now that I've gotten all that chip. Does he stay in and rest now? Does he G-Max up? Does he just curse again? Either way, it's time for me to set up. On the G-Max, I'm going to Iron Defense. And rather than Max Quake, he's going to reveal the Knuckle. Very interesting. Usually with a curse set, you're going to be upping your special defense as well, but Knuckle does at least up attack, just not as quickly as my defense is going up, so that's really nice. I'm not behind a sub anymore, but I'm convinced that if he has fighting coverage, he's not going to be using ground coverage, probably just a standard set with, say, fighting, dark coverage, curse, and then maybe rest. Even if he does have ground coverage, another Iron Defense should absolutely do wonders, so it's just going to let me tank the incoming Knuckle pretty well, though apparently, as we can see, 24% is not going to be enough for a sub after his attack raise. So now +4 defense. Let's just sub up anyways. You may see a losing battle in retreat, and otherwise I'm trying to stall at the last turn G-Max. That I don't feel like risking a crit, and oh man, he's going to reveal the max darkness. Again, probably Darkest Lariat. Doesn't even break the sub at +3 attack, just me being at +4 defense. We're in a big boy battle right now. but I feel very good about where I'm at. I don't know if he can stay the same, especially with G-Max down. So, although Dark Slayer can hit through my defense drops, I think with G-Max down, yep, Body Press will pick up the first KO of the match. Looks too good to be true, honestly, as G-Max is down. I'm behind a sub. I'm at +4 defense. I still haven't even revealed my 4th move. That last bit is actually kind of important, actually, as it could dissuade the Amoonguss from coming in yet. We do actually get away with this, because for some reason, Klefki is going to be the switch. I know we wanted Snorlax to handle Mag Zone, but the Iron Defense set really ended up manhandling that. G-Max and all, and that's all I could ask for. The Klefki coming in now seems like, I mean, it could be early tilting, potentially. I'm not really sure. He's going to get up Light Screen. I'm just going to get up my last Iron Defense, and of course Reflect afterwards on the Body Press. That does keep it low. Body Press was good because, as you can see, without the Reflect it would have O-code, and with Reflect it keeps it alive, and that's actually kind of important. Also, knowing that this is Shed Shell is crucial. Those screens only go down in 3 and 4 more turns, respectively. Why would I bother finishing it off right now? Maybe we can waste a turn and see what he does. He's going to defog himself and waste a turn and kind of waiting to go down, but I'm able to make a good read on that. He wants this to go down right now, too, to get up maximum turns of screens, but without Likely, it's just not going to be as much, and it's easier for me to stall that out, too. I'm done being cute, though. He'll waste another turn without being able to break my sub, but I'll finish this thing off with Body Press. 2 turns of Reflect left for my Body Presser, who's still at max defense behind a sub, up 6-4. Amazing start, and it's only going to get better because this is his biggest threat, and it's out right now, and I'm behind a sub and maxed out in defense. Haxorus wants some punishment as much as it wants to dish it out. Max defense, though, let's see. He's going to break this up, sure. And I'm going to hit 4 behind the Reflect, about 3/4. That's kind of insane, actually. And I do know that means another one will finish him off, even with Reflect up, so that's pretty nice. So aren't I hit 4 times super effectively? 34%! That's so crazy. Haxorus is so strong. 34%? Down goes Haxorus. Wow. By the way, I have clicked 4 moves this game, 3 on the zone, and the Bowflaunt are up 6-3, with only Amoonguss, Umbreon, and Keldeo left. Obviously, I feel very good about this, but I need to check his possible win conditions, what they are still. Keldeo can still rip holes if this is a spec set, as I'm very much unprepared for it at this point. Umbreon could wish pass things up if I only chip them and don't KO them. Amoonguss walls a couple team members. I think there's still a path for a victory for him. I'll have to figure out exactly what it is and how to choke that out effectively. Keldeo makes sense as a first step. I don't feel much like taking a big water move, so I think I'm just going to make a safe play into Dragapult, but he's actually going to sub up here, interestingly enough. Looks like it isn't choiced. Maybe it's the same setup set that won him his quarterfinals match with Calm Mind and Scald. Worst case scenario, this is a Subtoxic set, as that is about the only thing that could be able to beat the Mantine in the first place anyways. The Mantine was specifically for a Calm Mind set, but without that, dropping it last moment, it isn't looking particularly favorable right now. I do have Infiltrator for this, but is that too terribly important right now? I'm just going to go for a safe sub, in case he thinks he can set up on me. But he does Scald to immediately break the sub. Do I care if this gets burned? Not really, and D-Darts is doing over half to it, so if I can get away without a burn, even then, Mew in the back, I can risk it. I think it's fine. D-Darts is actually going to go into a switch into Umbreon, who wants me to stop setting up immediately before I can even start. And I get to do a nice about 40%-ish or so to it. Now, after the last time we faced, I want to scout this moveset, so before I get Sucker Punched for you turning out, I'd like to see what it has. Substitute on the Protect, so probably Wish Protect, and that obviously makes a ton of sense. He might Protect, he might reveal his Dark coverage. Let's just try it. D-Dance again. His coverage is going to be on the Wish here after the second Dragon Dance. Foul play. Great call there, honestly. That's going to break my sub. His last move could still be Sucker Punch, actually. I've seen some janky Umbreon sets with like 4 dark moves, for example. That's how you can slap an Assault Vest on that thing. I know this obviously isn't that, but more than one dark move is not unheard of on Umbreon, is what I'm trying to say. So, not risking another freaking Sucker Punch. We're just going to hard switch to Zone. I don't think U-Turn would quite kill, although I don't know if Sucker Punch would either. We're only going to take 11% though. No risks there, which is pretty nice. I'm just going to reveal Toxic Casey stays in or pivots to Keldeo, but he actually goes into the Amoonguss, and he now knows that this eats up everything I can do to him. I really don't do much at all to this Amoonguss with Magnezone, and I think it's time to just go into Mew. The easiest switch, I don't need to be tricky about the goggles to this point. He's actually going to reveal an interesting tech, Substitute Amoonguss. I'm very curious as to what this could have been intended for. Either way, I don't really see it doing too terribly much to me, especially being immune to sleep with the goggles, so I'm just going to start doing what Mew is meant to do. I'm going to get up a layer of Spike. See, even up so much, he can still find a way if he pivots around properly, particularly with that Wish Umbreon Regenerator Amoonguss, so to stop that, I need to get those spikes up immediately to punish this switching. Seeing that he did bring Defog on Klefki means he was worried about it too. Less chance of things like boots on these, although obviously we've seen all these leftovers of Black Sludge. Anyways, the point being Spikes is very good, and even if I hit a Toxic, which I do, it's worth it, considering I can Heal Bell that off in a bit. Now, you may think that breaking the sub is a priority. You may also think that healing up is a priority, but I'm really not concerned about whatever it is he's trying to do with these. I'm just going to get another layer of spikes up. I'm going to eat a little bit of chip, and that's totally fine. That's really not much. So now with this second layer up, and me starting to get just a little bit low, the Toxic's starting to ramp up after 2 turns, and that's enough damage so I need to worry about it. I can heal Bell off Toxic damage right now, and what do you know? I don't even need to break the sub. He does it for me as he realizes he is not going to win this battle. Even if I haven't revealed my attacking move yet, or any way to break the sub, he doesn't want me to get all those layers up for absolutely free. Giga Drain was pitiful damage. I could afford to take my time getting healthy and finishing off the spikes before clicking Psychic to force out anyway, so I think that was the right decision to switch, honestly. Of course, he may not have expected that Heal Bell either, which is super important in keeping Mew healthy in this exact scenario. Because I know he's a sub-call mindset, my Mew can take a hit from Keldeo this time, unlike last time we faced when I found out he was Specs the hard way. So, Substitute, meet my coverage, quote-unquote, move in Psychic sub. Obviously, is going to go down easily. He needs to switch. I figured Umbreon was the switch, but I don't mind doing nothing to it when I can take advantage of it in other ways. Instead, in comes the Amoonguss, perhaps trying to Toxic me again. He's actually going to take over half, which is nice. Clean 51% from the Psychic. Great damage from an uninvested Mew, but that is the power of Stab, and that's why I picked Psychic over other possible coverage moves like Ice Beam or the Foul Play, mostly for this Amoonguss. And now that I know that he can't afford to stay in, Umbreon is back. I didn't fear the Amoonguss so much, the Keldeo, so I'm just going to get the last layer of spikes up pretty cheekily. I really didn't care what he was doing to me. If he was synthesized, I really didn't care. Whatever he's doing, I can get up the 3rd layer of spikes. Easy play, honestly, on that switch to Umbreon. So that definitely worked better than I thought it would. Mew's done some good work. It actually beats the other 2 remaining members by itself, Keldeo and Amoonguss, very easily. Now, I do think I have something in the back that should do some good work here without being too threatened by anything he does with Umbreon. And that is going to be my Vikavolt. Foul Play, as you can see, does absolutely nothing, so I think he doesn't really threaten me all that much. Bug Buzz smacks absolutely anything, even the Keldeo, so without him clicking Wish, I may as well just do this. Foul Play still does nothing, so that Bug Buzz chunks him hard, 89%. That's the power of Specs, I tell you. Oh, man. So, it really doesn't matter what he's doing at this point. I think just getting this Vikavolt in, even on the Protect, his next attempt is going to Wish as it's KO'd. I think getting Vikavolt in there was a very good play. Made sure that I was able to kind of muscle my way in. Look at all that passive damage, 25% from the spikes. And that's important too, because as you know, with Specs, this isn't even a roll. Vikavolt gets to pick up yet another KO. Keldeo's his last hope, and you already know there's a certain someone that needs to come in and do some work, or at least pick up a KO. And barring a burn on an incoming Scald, yeah, Dragapult is going to come in and simply clean up with relative ease. D-darts away. And that, folks, is going to wrap up our semifinals match with the Close Combat Club 6-0. GG to John. Great season from him with a nice run at the end, including taking down the fearsome number 3 seed in the quarterfinals. Well done, honestly. But let's break down what happened in this match. Keldeo was, again, something I didn't anticipate coming, and it actually did. Mantine was the hard stop to it, so I wonder if maybe his last move is Toxic, or maybe Secret Sword to hit physically. Either way, Haze had to come on Mantine if I was going to bring it, but to see it come anyways was surprising. Luckily, I had a few stops to it, especially by just staying in on it with things like Dragapult and Mew. Klefki was another very surprising bring, although I suppose with Shed Shell it made some sense as his defogger, knowing that I had brought spikes last time too. The biggest issue with it, as we saw, isn't that Magnezone eats it up, but rather uses and abuses it as setup fodder, and that was definitely the goal of the set this time anyways. Getting the sub up on the Klefki switch was vital, and being able to end another encounter against it behind a sub was amazing too. It could have had a role in the end, but it was just a liability. Maybe staying in on zone and getting up some spikes would have been worth it. I think that set would have done a lot more work. Without Light Clay, I don't think the screens was the answer. I like the idea of him trading away the G-Max Charizard for G-Max Snorlax, honestly. The big bulky power fit his playstyle pretty well, and as we saw, it's one of the few G-Maxes that could actually set up a little bit. Still, the Iron Defense worked super well, and chipping it for half before G-Max could start was pretty crucial in taking it down early. Tangela was a nice answer for it too with the Leech Seed, and I can't really see it being too terribly big of an issue for the team. Maybe if it got set up, but I don't really see me giving it that opportunity in the first place. Haxorus was always my biggest concern. I just got lucky with getting up to +6 with Magnezone against it, meaning even EQ did pitiful damage. This was what Sandaconda was for, so again, lucky break. Amoonguss was definitely an issue. John sacked 3 Mons to get through a Magnezone that did about 40% max to Amoonguss. But then again, Amoonguss wasn't doing anything back, so I'm not sure. Don't know if he even had Spore considering the Subtoxic Giga Drain set, but it's fine. Physically defensive again, probably the right call, but it's why something like Vikavolt could work so well. Not sure about the subset. Maybe to sub again whenever it's broken and wear things down with Toxic. I'm not really sure, honestly. Finally, of course, Umbreon was an issue in walling Dragapult and Mew, but it just doesn't have offensive presence. Foul Play wasn't going to do that much to max HP Mew, and he never revealed Sucker Punch for Dragapult, so not sure on that. Last move was probably Toxic, I suppose. On my side, Pult was okay. Finding set opportunities wasn't tough. It's just that the rest of the team put in so much work. I think the set was the right call in the end, though. It exerted pressure even on the Umbreon and forced it to reveal its set, which I could afford to do considering the advantage I had. Mew was great as always, forcing more pressure and absolutely bringing the right set. Having Heal Bell was a great call, giving me more freedom on even turn 1 with Dragapult, risking it knowing I could heal it back up, or keeping in Mons on Amoonguss knowing I could heal them up. Psychic was the correct coverage move for sure too, and Spikes was great in the end game. Magnezone. What can I say about Magnezone? Easy MVP, perfect set for the match, took down 3 Mons by itself, including the 2 biggest threats on the team, which allowed Sandaconda and Tangela to have a breather this time around. Great Mon. I argued it should be considered in Tier 1, but without hidden power, others voted it Tier 2. Well, we showed them. Finally, Vikavolt exerted great pressure. I love Specs Vikavolt a ton. I was definitely glad to see it work so well with the damage from Bug Buzz, a barely resisted move that I had identified as great coverage. So that is the 3rd straight 6-0 victory. I can't imagine we've ever gone into a finals match hotter than this. Oh, yeah, by the way, the Buffon have made yet another finals match in the Wooper Club League. A season after wilting away in VGC, we made it back to the promised land, looking for our 4th title in 5 seasons. Who's standing in our way? Well, the number 1 seed Waterdeep Wobbuffets, who we lost to earlier in the season, have been defeated as well. Who does that mean we have to go beat up again to grab another title? It's actually a familiar face from previous seasons. Let's find out who that is next time on the final video covering the Wooper Club League Season 6. We'll see you in the finals.